Hello everyone, welcome to English Digest.
Hello, I'm Sam.
And this is Angeline. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a young girl by the name of Malala Yousafzai. Her name is kind of hard to say. So she was born in Pakistan in 1997. When she was 11, the Taliban took over the town and banned girls from going to school. Malala decided to speak out publicly on behalf of girls and their right to learn. Unfortunately, this made her a target. And in 2012, she was shot on the left side of her head. Thankfully, she survived and decided to make the most of the second chance at life by continuing her fight. She didn't stop. She continued her fight so that every girl could go to school. She's a pretty amazing girl, isn't she?
Yeah, very, very amazing. Yeah, she didn't quit.
Yeah, I think if it was me, I would be so scared. I mean, I almost died.
Yeah, it's like life-threatening.
Yes.
好，大家呢有没有听过这个名字呢？马拉拉，马拉拉她是一位巴基斯坦的女孩。那当时这个巴基斯坦被这个塔利班组织给控制他们禁止女孩上学。所以呢，马拉拉在11岁的时候，她就写信发表呢，这个女孩应该可以要上学的这些言论。那因为这个言论呢被报道出来，所以她就被关注了。那14岁那年呢，这个有枪手呢就上校车直接对她射击。幸好呢，后来她就康复了。那现在她已经23岁了，依然持续的为女性发声。她更是有最年轻的这个诺贝尔奖得主。那今天呢，我们的写作跟她有什么关系呢？
Today's writing exercise requires us to write an essay based on one of Malala's quote.When the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. So now let's take a look at our writing prompt, shall we?
好，马上来看一下今天我们主题写作的提示了。他说呢，马拉拉优萨福扎伊于西元2014年呢，为女性和弱势发声而获颁诺贝尔和平奖。他的名言呢 ，When the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. 当整个世界都沉默，即便一个声音也会变得有力量。这句话呢，让它成为许多人仿效的目标。请以这句名言写一篇至少120个单词的文章，解释其含义，并举例说明，来支持你的想法。
Okay, so Malala Yousafzai was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014 for her fight against the suppression of women. Her famous quote, "When the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful," is a source of inspiration, and many people have actually made this their goal.Write an essay with at least 120 words based on this quote. Explain its meaning and give examples to support your ideas. Okay, so it's hard to imagine what life would be like if your right to education was taken away from you. You might find it such a drag to go to school every day, but you are lucky, you are privileged to be able to have this right to education. Have you thought about what if this was taken away from you, this right?
I will probably be happy at first.
Happy
because,
at first.
I don't have to go to school anymore.
Right?
Yeah, but then you actually think about it, it's really bad because you don't get to see your friends, see your classmates, and most importantly, you don't get the chance to be educated.
Exactly. So would you do anything in your power to fight for that right back, even if it meant risking your life?
I really cannot sure if I would because if I was shot on the school bus,
Yes.
I probably...
You would just keep quiet, right?
Yeah, I would be like traumatized and never go to school again.
Exactly. So think about it. What if you had a right taken away from you? Would you fight to get that right back, even if it meant risking your life? Now, these are very deep questions, but it really helps us put this quote into perspective, okay? When the whole world is silent, as in no one is speaking up against this, one voice is all it takes to change the world. It may seem hard to fathom how one voice could make a difference, right? However, think about it like this. If you were in a room and everyone was silent, your voice would definitely be heard by everyone in the room if you said something. And honestly, all it takes is just for one person to start talking, and then everybody will start talking as well. Okay, so when writing an essay in response to a quotation, there are a few things you want to keep in mind. Sam, could you tell us what approach we can take with an essay like this?
好，今天这篇写作呢，这篇主题写作呢很特别它呢是要用一句话，这个 quote 呢，一句谁说过的话来作为我们的主题来进行发想。这样的文章呢，首先第一步我们一定要先了解的，当然就是这句话的含义了。我们要先了解它之后呢，才能掌握后面呢我们文章要怎么样来发挥这个发挥的重点跟方向。 再来呢，这篇文章呢其实跟其他文章都一样哦，不论它是用什么东西作为主题来发想，文章呢它一定呢就是需要有这个起承转合的架构。那开头呢没有什么问题，我们建议就直接从这句话来破题。我们呢可以花几句话的篇幅呢来解释一下这句话，讲一下呢这个 quote 这个引言呢它蕴含了什么样的启示，那你看了之后呢你有什么样的感觉，比方说你是赞同它，你是不赞同它等等。那再来呢就可以接到我们的第二部分呢，也就是举例说明了。这个刚刚呢我们可能前面已经讲过你自己的想法，比方说你赞成这句话说的这件事情，那你怎么赞成它，你怎么赞同它，有没有例证可以证明 OK， 还有呢这个例证之后呢，还有就是说这句话对你造成什么样的影响，这些呢都是在我们这个第二段落举例说明的地方可以讲的。那这边也要提醒大家呢，不要写这个太高太大太远的例证哦。这个我不知道现在还有没有，但是呢以前我们这个小学读书的时候都要看那个蒋公看小鱼逆流而上，然后呢你看着小鱼逆流而上决定呢这个我要认真念书这样的故事，以前可能写作文都会要举这种例子，但是呢像这样的举例呢可能大家都这样写呢就跟其他人都一样了，那读者很难对你的作文呢留下印象了。所以大家呢建议你们可以写一些这个比较贴近日常生活的情境，比方说这个你班上发生了什么事情，因为这句话你做了什么事等等的，这样子日常生活的情境比较呢能够引起读者的共鸣咯。那最后呢记得我们这个文章呢刚刚讲过起承转合，所以一定还是要给它下一个结论啦。那你可以用一两句呢再讲一次 recap 一下我们主题那句名言，讲一下它的重点，它的精神，讲一下它的道理来这个达成这个首尾呼应的效果呢，让读者对于这句话的这个精神以及你的诠释呢可以更有印象，然后呢同时也可以达到加强你的论点的效果咯。
Okay, so now that you have an idea of what your essay will look like, it's time to organize your thoughts into an outline. Let's take a look at the sample outline in the magazine. The topic sentence tells us what this essay is going to be about. It says, there is a quote from Malala that gives me hope. Okay, then the writer gives two supporting statements to explain the quote's meaning. It says, to me, it means that I'm important, even though I'm just one person.And then it says, I can still make a difference by speaking up.
开头呢，如果我们刚刚呢所讨论所规划的我们在这边呢这个范例文章里面作者一样呢就是直接使用马拉拉的这句名言来破题了。这边作者呢就接着说了这句话带给他的感受，他说呢一个人的力量感觉很渺小，但是呢马拉拉这句话呢带给他希望，带给他力量让他感觉他虽然只是一个人，但是呢只要说出来就能够创造一点改变。那接下来呢第二段呢作者就是照着我们的这个提示他就要来讲述一下他自己的经验，或是呢他对于这句话有什么样的感受了。
In the second paragraph, the writer decides to share how this quote was a source of inspiration. The topic sentence says, this philosophy inspired me to help someone. Okay, then the writer gives supporting details. It says, one classmate was scolding another during lunch. Everyone stopped talking. I remembered Malala's words and talked to my angry classmate.
所以呢第二段呢作者就这个开头呢他就先讲说这句话带给他什么样的改变。 OK， 他就说呢这句话这句名言这个其中的精神这个哲理呢感动了他让他决定来帮助其他人。那他所以呢就照我们刚刚讲的，其实他在第二段呢这个主题句讲完之后，他下面就讲了一个这个他日常生活中发生的故事来验证说他是真的因为受到这句话的这个感召，所以呢他决定来帮助别人。他呢就讲了一个他在班上发生的故事他就说呢这个 one classmate was scolding。 OK， 这个同学呢有一个同学在骂另外一个同学在吃午饭的时候。大家如果有这样的经验，有人开始吵架，其实那个气氛是蛮紧张的所以呢大家在教室里面呢就 stop talking， 就没有人讲话，陷入沉默，只剩下他们两个人。那呢作者呢他就想起了马拉拉这句话，所以呢他决定起身即便大家都是沉默的看着他们两个人吵架，他决定呢起身来跟这个生气的同学讲话来这个化解状况。 OK， 这个呢就是他的验证。那这个故事讲完之后呢，最后带给了作者什么样的启示或是什么样的转变呢，我们就会在结论里面带出来了。
That's right. The writer concludes the essay with the following sentence. Malala's words gave me confidence to try to stop the bullying.
最后他就讲说呢，这个马拉拉的话呢，带给他这个自信跟力量让他呢决定他要试着来化解霸凌的状况。OK， 所以这个就是作者最后下的一个结论了，再一次提到这句话带给他的改变，提到这句话对他来说的精神含义是什么。
Okay, so we are going to take a quick break before we look through our writing samples. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Okay, so now let's take some time to read through our basic writing sample. Basic sample. There are nearly 8 billion people on Earth. This often makes me feel small and unimportant. However, there is a quote from Malala Yousafzai that gives me hope. When the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. To me, it means that I'm important, even though I'm just one person. I can still make a difference by speaking up. This philosophy inspired me recently to help someone. I was having lunch with my classmates when we noticed one classmate scolding another. The angry student started shouting, getting louder and louder, while the quiet student shrank deeper and deeper into his seat without saying anything. We all slowly stopped talking, frozen in silence as we were so uncomfortable with the tension. I remembered Malala's words, though, and realized keeping quiet was not right. I walked over to my angry classmate and said, "Hey, let's go talk calmly in the hallway." I felt nervous, but Malala's words gave me confidence to try to stop the bullying. Okay, so this writer felt inspired by Malala's quote to stop bullying, to speak up.So we don't really know who it is that was at fault here. Maybe both of them were at fault. We don't really know. But it was a good idea for the student to ask them to go outside and talk calmly in the hallway. Because obviously when one person's shouting and the other person is just sitting there not doing anything, you're not really going to solve the problem, right? Yeah. So this writer begins the essay by sharing what this quote means to him or her, okay? So basically, this quote gives this writer the empowerment to feel like I am important, I matter, okay? The quotation can be interpreted differently depending on each individual.
Yes.
So that's why it's important to explain what this quote means to you, okay? So that's what I think is important for you to do in the beginning of the essay, is not just to state the quote, but also to say, what do you get from that quote? What do you think that it means? What is it speaking to you about?
没有错。这边呢，这个我们的第一段落呢，有要求同学呢要来这个解释一下这句 quote 这句名言呢是什么意思，然后对你有什么样的这个影响或是启发。那这个其实是很重要的一件事情，因为呢，同样的一句话，其实在不同人听到呢，他可能就有不同的解读了。所以呢，文章开头要我们解释一下对于这句话的解读，这个部分是很重要的。因为呢，可能这句话带给你跟带给我们这个翻译文章的作者的感受其实是不一样的。你们这个不一样的，也可能造就我们第二段落在讲解范例的时候呢，会有不一样的故事情节发生哦。
Right. Okay. So for this writer, this quote is a philosophy. So philosophy is a set of ideas about how to do something or how to live. For example, a philosophy of life is to treat others as you would like them to treat you.Basically, the writer is saying that Malala's quote is a quote to live by, okay? And what do you live by? Well, to speak up, especially when no one else is willing to.
在这边我们看到这个单字呢 philosophy 这个字就是哲学的意思哦，所以对作者来说呢，马拉拉的这句名言呢就是一个生活哲学，也就是一种生活的态度准则。OK， 第二段落他为同学发生这样的故事，就是呼吁第一段呢，作者把这句话当成生活的准则的这个验证哦，验证说，这个话呢鼓励他去帮助别人，然后他在日常生活当中确实是有实践这样的准则，这个是第二段落举例的重点呢。那在这边呢，他还有提到很重要的事情，就是要 speak up。speak up 呢 ，speak 就是讲话嘛，所以 speak up 就是要大声的说出来哦。如果你觉得 不对的事情，或是你觉得需要帮助的人呢，你应该就是 speak up， 要说出来，要帮助他。
That's right. So we didn't know the background story about the two students, right? The one that was angry and the one that was being scolded at. We don't know what is going on. And I think everybody was shocked that suddenly there was somebody shouting during lunchtime, right? This is not something that happens. So they were frozen in silence, okay? They didn't know what to do. And I think I might be one of those people too, because you don't know what is going on. You don't know who to point the finger at. You don't know, maybe the person who is angry has the right to be angry.
Yes.
So you don't want to intervene. You don't want to, a lot of times we don't want to intervene. We don't want to get in the middle of this because we don't want to get into trouble.
Yes.
And we don't want to make assumptions because we don't want to pick a side, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And obviously, it's very uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable to be there. I think.
Yeah, especially during lunch break.
Yeah, when you want to just have fun, mostly people are usually, teasing each other and having fun. But it was so uncomfortable because of the tension. Tension, this word might be unfamiliar to you, but it's basically kind of like there's a lot of stress going on.
Yes.
There's like collision. How would you translate tension in Chinese?
Tension 就是中文就会讲说是张力哦，所以说假如说我们这个环境里面是充满 tension， 就是表示说这个张力太强，是很有压力的，很让人紧张的这种氛围，我们会讲说是有 tension， 有压力的。
That's right. You feel nervous, you feel anxious, you don't know what to do. Another time you might feel tension is when your parents are fighting.
Yes.
That's another time.
That's true.
You don't want to get in the middle of this, right? Because you don't want to pick sides and you don't know who's right, who's wrong. But there's definitely a lot of tension when your parents start fighting. It's a situation you don't want to be in. So next time if that happens and you're in this situation, you can say, hey, let's go talk calmly.
In the hallway.
In the hallway. Yeah, that's another way for you to break the fight. Yeah, if you can say it that way. Anyways, now let's take a look at our advanced writing sample. Advanced sample. Young activist Malala Yousafzai once said, when the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. This quote is so compelling because it emphasizes the power of the individual. In such a chaotic world, many of us feel powerless to make real change, and we assume others are too busy to confront problems. However, Malala's words remind us that when it seems no one else cares, that's exactly when it's most important to show that we do. By speaking up, our voice lends strength to others who would do the same. When I think of this quote, I remember encountering problems that seemed too daunting to handle. Worse yet, they went unnoticed by others. For example, my parents told me many migrant workers in Taiwan are treated poorly and paid little. This bothered me greatly, but it seemed nobody else was talking about it. So, for a class presentation, I decided to speak about the lives and working conditions of migrant workers. At the end of my talk, I was surprised and encouraged to see that many of my classmates were called into action. We decided to write letters to the government and raise money for organizations that help Taiwan's foreign workers. I felt so touched that my one small voice was able to make such an impact, and this is exactly what Malala was expressing. Okay, I don't know if I mentioned earlier or if we mentioned earlier, but when we write an essay in response to a quotation, we have to make sure that the quotation is actually in the essay.
Yes.
I don't know if the criteria said that. I don't think the criteria said specifically to make sure that you include it, but you definitely want to include that, okay? Because when somebody reads your essay, they're not going to know the criteria. So that is something that is important for you to include.
Yeah, you have to include that.
Yes. So not only do you have to write about what this quote means to you, but you have to make sure that you include the quotes so that your essay will make sense.
Yes.
Okay. So I like this sentence particularly that the writer wrote. It says, by speaking up, our voice lends strength to others who would do the same. Okay, this is a very powerful sentence because it really just takes one person to be brave enough to speak up, and others will follow suit, right? Our voice lends strength. Basically, my one voice can give other people the strength, the encouragement to also speak up. It's always difficult to be the first person, right?
Yes.
But once there is one person, other people will follow suit. Other people will also start to share their opinion. Sometimes I think people don't speak up because they think someone else will. So they need not say anything. So it's not so much that you don't care or that you're not brave enough, but you just kind of think somebody else will do it. So it's okay. Never mind. I'll just,
Yeah, I have my own business.
Yeah.
I'm too busy.
Exactly. Yeah.
好，所以呢，刚刚这个第二篇的 Advanced Sample 读完之后呢，有提醒大家呢，虽然说我们的这个提示里面没有要求大家，但是呢，我们的这个灵感来源，也就是这一句 quote 这个名言呢，记得一定要在文章里面要提到，要写进去。OK， 那在这边呢，我们看到这个片语 speak up。speak up 呢，我们刚刚讲过了，它就是这个我们字面上的意思，大声说出来。那另外一个意思呢，则是对强烈的主题呢来发表意见哦，坦率说出来的意思。那我们这个文章里面现在用法是比较是第二个用法，比较不是字面上那个很物理的大声说话，比较不是这个意思。那这个片语 speak up 它可以跟 speak out 这个片语呢来互换，意思是一样的。我们呢可以看一下例句哦 ，If no one has the courage to speak out about this issue, I'm sure things will never improve. 如果没有人有勇气就这个议题表明意见的话呢，我相信情况呢永远不会改善。
That's right. So it's not just one thing to keep complaining about something, okay? Because if you keep complaining about something, that's not going to improve anything.
No.
What you really need to do is to speak up or to speak out to talk about this issue, to address this issue, to let people who are in charge know about this issue. And that's how things will improve. Yeah. So not just speaking about it, amongst yourselves all the time.
Complain about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's different, right? Speaking up, speaking out, that means you're telling somebody in authority. You're talking about this. You're making it known that there's an issue that is going on. Remember I said before that everyone's interpretation of the quote may be different? Now, this writer interpreted the world's silence in two ways, okay? The writer says people may be too busy to confront problems. Or people don't care about the issue because it doesn't concern them. So these were two other ways that you could interpret this silent, okay? Silent not just from not saying anything, not because you're too shy, you're not brave enough, but silence coming from the fact that you're not saying anything because you are too busy or you think it's none of your business. Yeah.
好，还记不记得我们刚刚前面有讲过说呢，这个一样同一句名言呢，但是每一个人的解读就都有可能不一样。那在第二篇文章呢，我们这个作者的解读其实就跟第一篇文章不太一样了。第一篇文章呢，觉得这句话是在鼓励一个人发言 ，OK， 一个人的力量呢并不渺小 ，OK， 然后他解释说，这个你的 silent 保持沉默呢，可能是因为你没有勇气，或是你觉得自己的力量很渺小，所以你不讲话，不说出来。但是呢，第二篇文章的作者呢，他在这边解释为什么大家保持沉默。OK， 他这边讲说，你可能是因为这个太忙了，或者是呢，你根本不在意这件事情，因为这件事情呢根本不会打扰到你，对你的日常生活并没有太多的影响。那或是呢，他在这边用他自己的经验呢，他说 I remember encountering problems that seemed too daunting to handle. Daunting 这个字这个形容词就是形容说这件事情是令人却步的，使人气馁的。所以呢，一样要面对问题是需要勇气，但是呢，不只是没有勇气这个问题而已，也有可能是比方说你太忙了，你根本不在意等等。那作者呢，在这边呢，就针对这个 quote 这个名言呢，来做了多一点的解释。
Okay, so for this writer, speaking up about the poor working conditions of migrant workers helped raise awareness about this issue and even encouraged the students in the class to come together to make a change. Okay, so when we're talking about migrant workers, we're talking about workers, basically foreign workers, and they are people that come to the country to work. Okay, a lot of migrant workers in Taiwan come from Indonesia, Philippines,
yes,
India, I believe, and obviously, America, Canada. These are all what we would call migrant workers, okay? They come here to work. And if you know anything about migrant workers, a lot of them, especially the ones who work in factories, they have very poor working conditions. Now, what does poor working conditions mean? Well, it basically means that their work environment or the work that they need to do is often, maybe it's not safe, okay? Or maybe they are overworked. They work more hours than is legal. Or they work in places that are very dirty. They're not taken care of. like I said, it's not safe, and maybe they're paid very, very little money for the work that they do. Yeah, so that's why it's important to raise awareness about this, because not a lot of people know that this is the situation that is going on.
Yeah, maybe they're all hired like in that factory.
Yes.
You'll never see that.
You will never know
Yeah.
what is going on in a factory. That's right.
好，所以呢，在这边呢，我们就这个讲到移民哦 ，migrant 就讲说这些 migrant workers 就是移民的这个工人哦。那这个移民的工人不只是可能是，比方说像我们刚刚讲的这个工厂里面可能有很多是东南亚来的，或是其他地方来的，很多呢像是这个，比方说从美国来的啦，白领阶级等等，这些也都是 migrant workers 哦。那在这边呢，我们就讲说他可能他的 work condition， 他的工作环境呢是 poor， 是这边 poor 不是指贫穷的，是表示说是很不好。没有妥善管理的，比方说可能是很危险的啦，或者说不卫生的，甚至他们的工资、工时等等这些问题呢，其实都是需要被关注的咯。那另外呢，在这边呢，我们要讲一下呢，这两篇文章呢都是在讲说把想法说出来就可以改变这个故事的发展，改变这个事情发生的结局。但是第一篇呢比较是从个人出发他挺身而出，所以呢让这个两个吵架的同学呢缓和下来，解决问题。那第二篇文章的议题就比较大了，他说出来之后呢，可能改变的不仅是这个事情的发展，你可能呢会影响其他没有讲但是有相同想法的人哦。OK， 你讲了之后，大家呢就会跟你一起行动的这样的概念。那他的经验当中呢，很多同学就是因为受到他讲出来了，受到他的这个感动，所以呢就一起出来。在这边呢，他用了这个片语called into action。OK，called into action 就是呼吁采取行动，使这个起作用的意思哦。OK， 就是让大家一起来加入这个 action， 一起开始动起来。The people of this country have been called into action to vote in this important election.
Yeah. Okay, so we've come to the end of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Angeline.
This is Sam.
Goodbye.
Bye.